This episode of the Cutter's Rule podcast is sponsored by Courtside Rehab and Training. You've heard me talk about Dean Thompson. He is focused on rackets related injuries, whether you have something nagging and you want to address it before the New Jersey League Classic, or you have a serious injury that requires a lot more attention. Dean is your guy.
Gentlemen, let's get down to business.
Can you dig it?
You dig it?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Yeah, I can dig it, yeah.
Can you dig it?
All right, I am super excited for this episode. Hailing from Joburg, once just another pro with a paddle, he's now a full-blown sports media powerhouse. He's played the game, taught the game, covered the game, and now is basically owning the game. Ladies and gents, Mark Innes, player, professor, promoter, podcaster, and the unofficial ambassador of platform tennis.
Sean, you're getting good at these intros. I've heard a couple of people say that you
He's-
that these intros are pumping them up, but
yeah,
unless you run through a wall right now.
floor liked her, so I figured I had to come in strong for you.
You're getting good. Thank you
Thanks.
for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, so excited that you could join us. So we're going to dive into a lot of topics. The first thing, obviously, let's talk. You're sort of the interviewer who's being interviewed. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you got into paddle, any of the mentors that you had, and start from there.
Absolutely. So I was teaching tennis at Country Club of Darien throughout college for a guy named Carl Levinat. Shout out Carl, legend in Connecticut there. And when finished college, he basically was like, why don't you stay on, teach some paddle, we'll get you squared up. And I was meant to go back to school, but I decided to stay for a year, and I really loved the year-round thing, because when I was teaching through the summer, just tennis, you don't really know if people are kind of taking your instruction seriously, or you're not seeing that much improvement. But throughout the year, you develop these great relationships, and it was just a great environment, and I really loved it. So started off teaching there, and at that time, Connecticut was really a hub for most of the top pros. Like Juan Araya was there, Sebi Bredberg was there, Martin Bostrom, Marco Grangero. They were just like George Wilkinson. There was just, most of the top 10 was kind of 5 minutes away at other clubs. So getting in and playing lunchtime paddle, you're playing with all the best, which you have to improve if you're
Quickly.
doing that. So that was just a super fun time to be in that area, and started playing a few seasons, had some good results, and ended up, like most pros, when you get good results, good ranking, you're kind of doing that a lot of the time for your career. So you get looks at director jobs at different clubs, and I got a job in California at a place called Lagunitas Club. Shout out Lagunitas Club, best paddle location around in my opinion. But I ended up moving out there to teach paddle and to run the tennis and paddle program. And yeah, that was kind of how I got into it all.
That you recently posted a pic of that. I'm going to do a post on we Luke dubs great spots paddle Shangri-Las, and that is definitely one of the courts that I want to visit at some point. I mean, you're surrounded by redwoods or these huge pine trees. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's just a very very cool group of people. They're passionate about paddle. They play some high level paddle, to be honest. It's only at that club, but there's just really good rackets people. You have the redwood trees around the courts, and they have a fun tournament. I'll plug it. It's January. I want to say January 19th. I could be wrong there, but it's called the Lagunitas Open, and it's just a great weekend. There's different levels. You can go to Napa for the day, play the tournament the next day. It's just a great weekend, and it's a great group of people. So it's definitely a place you want to visit.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Carl is also was a mentor for Macy as well. Is that true?
Carl's got a good stable under his wing. He's mentor from AC, Bernard Skuman, Bernie, who was also kind of top 15 player and director now at New Canaan Field Club. He came up through Carl. Carl's a very good teacher. He takes time really training you and teaching you and kind of goes above and beyond. So that was sort of, we're all kind of from his lineage. And something that happened too that really kind of just helped me understand the game better and get more enmeshed is he started doing camps, called it with Johan Durant in Nantucket. And so early on, I sort of got roped into that teaching crew, where now you're getting to learn from Johan and Genius and Stephen Mitchell, and they always brought in other top pros to the camp. So you're just surrounded by people who play the game at a high level and are smart and think about it. So that was also, I think, a big piece and still is a big piece of me sort of understanding how to teach and see improvement and just what the game of paddle sort of what makes it tick.
Yeah, that's something we should look into, Sean, is the like coaching trees, the player trees of
Right.
who learned
Right.
how to
I think Jerry Vian probably has a good list. I think Mike Gillespie probably has it. Patty Hogan for sure has a good
Oh
list, but
yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be some. That's a
Sean's
fun.
on that list.
I haven't gotten on a court with her yet, although she keeps asking me when that's going to happen. So you mentioned Bernie. You've had a lot of different partners. I didn't know. We do our research here, and I saw you actually played with one of our buddies, Tyler Owens, in Indianapolis recently. And obviously Marco. I posted that great blitz of yours where you tagged Juan, and he was not happy with Alex Manchil after
With
that.
Ventura, yeah.
Um, any and any matches stand out for you in your career that were some of the favorite matches that you ever played?
Yeah, the sort of very first tournament I ever did well in, I was playing with Nick Erdoya, and we had sort of decided we're going to play the season to or some tournaments that year together, and we were kind of no names in Connecticut there, and it was rainy. It was at Patterson Club, and first round we end up drawing Lubow and DeRose, who are number two in the country at the time, and we beat them. I don't think they took it too seriously because we didn't have any names and it was raining, so things kind of went our way and we beat them. And then in the quarterfinals or maybe semis, then we beat Sebi and Martin, who had 2 days before had smoked us in a practice match. And then in the finals, we ran into Broderick Palmer, this was their first tournament, and I think they went on to have a pretty good run after that. So that tournament always stands out to me. Chicago Charities with Marco, we made a run to the finals, and that was, I think, in the round of 16. We probably were down, maybe saved 3 match points, something like that. So that was a fun one. And then the Lagunitas Open, I love it. The maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I've won it twice now, but the last one was with Tom Mays, who's a local legend there in Northern California, and we beat Sven Burs and Noah Seidenberg from Xenon, which was a fun battle. It was raining as well. Um, but yeah, those are probably some of the matches that just stand out in my short career.
Those were on my list of if you didn't bring them up.
Well, there's not many highlights to pick from, so
No, come on, come on. Yeah, another one. You had a you played with Louis Vauclair against two local friends of ours here, Victor Vidal and Lucas Green. That was a close match, I think, in the March to the Nationals. I don't know
did
if you
we did we win?
you lost in a tiebreaker.
Darn it. I do remember that tournament now. I actually forgot. Louis is a fun guy to play with, and he's playing some actually very good paddle at the moment. But I do remember that tournament. I think we actually played also in the back draw Dan Hansen and Mike Cochran. and that was kind of a fun match too. I hadn't played Dan Hansen before. He was kind of up and coming. But yeah, it's fun. I want to do actually still for whether it's for content or whatever reason is I want to get on the court with Team Regalazar and with Guy Nunez just because it's different when you're playing against them, like playing at camps we always get to play Johan and Steven and all these guys. So you can kind of feel on the other side what makes them so good. So that would I've never got a chance to sort of be on court with these guys. So yeah, I practice a little bit and then try and be sharp, but then it'll be fun to actually see how they hurt you and what they do to make you so uncomfortable and lose. But yeah, that's something that I haven't got to do yet.
Kind of going off, saying that Sean had highlighted another match where you played DeRose and Lubow. And obviously beating them is incredible. I think this one was in 2017 and you lost in a breaker, but maybe, talk a little bit about Steven DeRose's game and like you were just saying, being on the court with them and what they kind of do to make things difficult for you and what that experience was like.
That match, I think, if I'm remembering, it's nationals and was with Trevor Spracklin, and I think we gagged 3 match points. But
Sorry
you
to
know,
bring that up.
but and by we I mean me. But I think Steve was just like a creative guy. He was playing all unconventional positions. We hadn't really seen that all that much in the time. He, and yeah, he just sort of always kept you guessing. But John was also surprisingly very tough. I think his drive, like he could just drive and drive and drive, and it was just like this little thing that dipped over the net and it caught you uncomfortable, and you think you're there, but it's just like he keeps going. They just made you uncomfortable a lot, and that's kind of what paddle is a lot about. But they didn't have the crazy power that you see in today's game or from Johan, but they were sort of one of those early teams that just made you very uncomfortable by doing different spins, different positions, unconventional things.
Yeah. Unconventional is the word that comes to mind for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So you've seen a lot of changes to the game over the last, 15 years. Again, in several different positions, player, commentator, and now you're obviously involved in the live streaming. But how do you what's your take on the way the game has changed? So when I ask you that, what's the first thing that comes to mind in terms of what's changed since you started playing paddle?
I think it's more athletic. So before it was so, and I mean the principles still apply. Before it was very, kind of a slower game, be still when you're doing certain things, but it seemed like people are just really, using their feet, attacking the ball, getting in position. And again, overall the principles still apply, but it's just a lot more athletic game, which in turn has made it slower too, because before a cut shot sort of ended the point right there. But now, like I think I was courtside at Aronimink and I saw Jose Salazar get this cut shot from Ethan Leon, and I was like, what the heck? Like, how did he even get there? So, guys are just more athletic. Girls too. It's a more athletic game overall, which has also made it slower, interesting enough.
And is that a result of getting so many higher level tennis players into the game? Or
Yeah, it has to be. I can't think of another reason why. Yeah, just better racket skills. People have come in, deeper pool. Yeah, definitely.
where do you think it needs to go from here in terms of people are going to get mad? I keep bringing up speed of play, but we obviously it is a topic, right? We had a 6 hour final. But where do you see it going from here, or where do you think it needs to go?
I guess you have to think of it there from like, where do we want to see it go from a pro level in terms of the APTA tour, people watching tournaments, all that kind of stuff. And then where do you want to see it go from an amateur level actual just participation leagues, all that kind of stuff. From a pro level, even though that long match, that's not ideal for sort of watching, but streaming numbers, because we're seeing the back end as well, they're the highest that they've ever been. So, APTA is doing a lot of stuff media wise, so that's obviously, trending to it, but they are sort of people are saying that it's not great, but more people are watching than ever. But what I will say in terms of adjustments that can speed it up but still keep the essence of the game, I didn't know this until I was chatting. I've been working a bit in squash lately and was chatting to some people. And in 2010, in squash, pro squash, they lowered the tin. So, that line that they have to hit over, they lowered it for the pros for this exact reason because, the game was getting where they couldn't really take risks or put it away because people were too athletic now. They were getting everything. So they lowered it. And, Johan has, at camp, we all sit and have drinks and like talk nonsense about this kind of stuff. But he sort of feels pretty strongly as well. If you lowered the net a good couple inches, now when you are maybe doing that low cut, you can hit the snowboard pretty well. And now when you're driving from different spots, like the court just opens up a bit more. And to me, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Like, I've heard people say, myself included, like, if you make the lines of the court bigger and you things like that, like the actual boundaries within the cage, but that's a big fix. But you could drop the net a couple inches at your club tomorrow and sort of
Yeah.
have a look at it. So that's a pretty interesting thing that if it can speed up play and rewards risk a bit more and ends things, then I think that's a pretty good place to be. But for me, I don't think I don't think you want to take away from the essence of the game because people watching that are league players and trying to improve, they still need to they still want to see like the game that they are playing. So I don't think you can make just like crazy rules that completely change the game.
Yeah, you're the first person to suggest. We've asked that pretty much every guest we've had, that lowering the net we haven't heard before, and I agree with you that I don't think changing it for club players and recreational players is necessarily the best thing to do if you want to speed up pro matches. But that's interesting, Sean. What do you think about that idea?
I like it. Um, I think it's the best suggestion. The other one I thought was really good. I think it was Mark Powers that said you could, or it was either Mark or Mike Raleigh said you can deaden the wires, right? Because you have all these courts, and it's an expense to change them, which you kind of alluded to, Mark, when you were talking. But I think, making the wires a little more dead is an easy fix as well that you can easily do without, tremendous expense, right?
Sure.
Um, so you've seen a lot of great matches outside of your own. What any matches stand out for you? Like what were some of your favorite matches to watch?
That you didn't play in.
Yeah.
Which usually is the ones I didn't play and they're not my favorite. Some of my favorites, I'm a big Johan fan, so that I'm always sort of thinking of those matches. 20 Darien Nationals, the first one where Macy won was a pretty special match. Her and Marcelo Rodesno playing against Floor and Annika Cooper. That was like just the crowd was into it. Macy's so fun when she's fired up and like, getting after it. And that was a really cool match to watch. I think Johan and Steve played Jared and Drew after it, and maybe it was the next year when they won, but that match I remember being fun. Um, what were some of the other ones that stick out? I have a memory of short heels with Felipe and Chris playing Johan and Steve in the finals that I remember being a really fun one. And then the a random one was Detroit. maybe 3 years ago, Chris Humphreys and Felipe are playing against Tyler Frazier and Adam Morgan. And like those teams are just so chippy with each other. And we're just on the sidelines, and it was awesome because they were just chirping nonstop in like the most competing hard. So nothing rude, but they were just, I remember one thing, I think Felipe and Chris were getting a bunch of net cords going their way. And so Adam sort of in frustration was like, how many more of these guys gonna get? And Felipe just in his New York accent is like a lot. And they just like chipped in the whole time. It was awesome. It was a fun match. But yeah, back in the day, what I think was cool, and I get why it doesn't happen so much anymore, but I feel like players stuck around a lot um, to watch the remaining matches when they did lose. And that was just kind of cool. I saw it actually in Aronimink. A lot of the players were staying around and watching the semis that went on that happened over there. So I think it's usually when if the evening is still going and there's good matches like a Chicago Charities quarterfinal evening, then players stick around. But I always think that's just a cool thing when the players that are now not playing kind of stick around and watch the top players because it means that they're into it.
Yep.
It's your fault that they leave now because the streaming's so good.
They're like, oh, we'll just watch it on YouTube.
Hotel room.
Um, well, let's bring up another match because you did talk about it, and I was there as well. The Leon Moyo, versus Regalazar. Wow, that was a hell of a match.
It was electric. When I'm working at the events, I don't often, unless I'm actually like manning the switchboard, I don't get to sort of watch it in the way that I would like to, and like actually be like, oh, this was good, this was good. But from the court side, I was doing the camera a little bit, and yeah, the crowd was awesome. Um, Matt Moyer is just a super interesting player. I think he sees the game so well, and he's not scared to kind of change things up and do what, like, again, that sort of John Lubow make them uncomfortable. Like you're not sure what this guy's doing. And Ethan Leon's very super, super talented. That's a good comparison, actually. Maybe they the Lubow DeRose of the new generation.
Interesting. Well, I remember Macy brought up on your podcast, Ethan, when you guys were talking about underrated players. I know their fellow Southern Methodist University alum, as is Genius, by the way.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to see him play a couple times, and I had him on the podcast. I mean, they're both super talented kids. How about an underrated player that you think didn't get talked about enough, during the last 15 years? Someone that just, so like, I don't know. I am obviously a neophyte, but I think like Mike Wagner is such a solid paddle player, and I think a lot of the casual club players would have no idea who he is.
Yeah, no, no, you're not wrong. I think in that same sort of vein, you probably have like Scott Kahler. I think he really got a lot out of his game, and he played his role really, really well. And he got some great results. So I would say he's probably in there. Um, who else is in that vein of underappreciated? Huh. I had one, but I just lost it. If it comes to me, I'll tell you. But I
Okay.
think Scott Cale is probably one that comes to mind.
Um, you've worked with so many pros, and we'll get into my paddle. But was there a session or a lesson? And it's great content. I'm going to plug it again later, but I'm a subscriber, and I know that you're really re-upping a lot of new content on the platform, which is great. But is there a particular pro or lesson that really opened your eyes in terms of how to approach something? I know you took a serve lesson with Floor, and you got it down pretty quickly. But you've worked with a lot of great, talented people. Is there anything that really opened your eyes that you can think of?
Yeah, it's usually like, you know, tidbits here and there and I think that's how a lot of learning kind of takes place in general. But it'll usually be like, say for example, Johan's doing the drop shot, and I've actually never had a good drop shot in paddle. And I have good hands in tennis, and I volley well, but just the drop shot never really did it. And his sort of pro tip, because that was something we always wanted in the videos, was like, don't give us like, because there was a time when people were teaching, and it's a good thing, but it was like the textbook, right? This is how you teach paddle. And so we kind of wanted to have it where it's like, well, what's actually helpful for you? Don't give me what the textbook says. Tell me how what you found helpful. And so his thing was like his visual was the paddle should lose the collision when the ball hits it. So, you've made the move to hit the drop shot, you're close to net, and now you're holding it kind of lightly, and when the ball hits it, paddle should go backwards. And I was like, oh, damn, that's solid. And then, there's Stephen Mitchell does a underhand serve masterclass, and one of his things was, start with the contact point higher so that, and then as you're getting better, you can drop it down. Because I was trying to just like drop it down and whip it up. So it's usually things like that every pro has or says in a different way, and that's kind of what makes having that variety of pros on the platform or teaching with different pros kind of special.
I love it. It's so easy to just find different things on there based on level or topic, and it's also great because you can dive back in later, right? You go to the court, you work on it, and maybe you're not getting it, and you go back and you watch a video again, and it just, repetition clicks. Let's dive into Joho Media. How did you come up, with the idea to move in this direction for you, and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it kind of unfolded pretty organically where, so 2020 December, I started my paddle, and then we were just filming so much, and we are just doing so much social media that the APTA brought us on to start to do some videos for them. And so we did a bit of content for them. And then, the next season it updated to, okay, now we'll run your socials as well. And then it just kind of kept evolving in that way. And then there's a clothing brand out of Connecticut that a guy I used to teach started. Shout out M4 Sports. It's what are you made for is kind of the premise. It's just really high quality athletic wear. And he had sort of seen the online community that we had built within Paddle and what we were doing for APTA. And so then he wanted us to start to run their socials and their e-com. So it was more an internal thing where it was just like I can't push people if say I want another client or more work in the media space. I can't push people to my paddle because they're like, well, this is an instructional website. Like, it doesn't make sense. So internally it was like, well, we are a media company now and we have these two clients, and my paddle is kind of our in-house client, our in-house company. So let's just sort of make the umbrella of Joho Media, and now we're able to do e-commerce. We do a bunch of, I think content creation is and very quick, and that is our sweet spot. And then we manage social medias and email marketing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and live streaming. But yeah, that's sort of the origin story. It just kind of unfolded naturally because I was making so much content and learning that world that, and naturally we had work already that we decided to kind of put it all together.
Nice. I went back I went on YouTube and just kind of went into the APTA site and looked at some of the progression of the videos on there. You have a final from 1975, and there's a crane actually above the court.
Mhm.
You have the 2010 final, which was with Johan with Jerry Albright's. That was his first win against Manseger, and good speed. And you can see the progression of the video quality, right? And it really, even recently in 2017, 18, it wasn't that great, and it really kind of kicked in, not only in terms of quality of the filming, but also the frequency, which I guess is you know part and parcel due to the APTA's support for the live streaming, right? So, um, can you talk a little bit about the challenges? I mean, I don't know a lot, but my wife is a producer of TV commercials, and she's like, you don't even understand. You have weather, you have sun, you have snow, you're going through a wire cage, you have focus issues, you have the speed of the ball and angles. So, talk a little bit about, did you have a learning curve at all in that regard, and how did you dive in and tackle that?
Yeah, so we started maybe 3 years ago streaming. Again, we were doing a bunch of content for APTA, and they sort of said, before they were with one vendor, and they were I'm sure I can say this, but they were meant to sign like a longer term contract with this vendor, but they did fine work, but there was a little bit to be desired, right? And so they said, would you guys be interested in trying streaming? So my main guy, Jake, shout out Jake, he's my video editor, he shoots. And so I kind of spoke to him and was like, would you be down to kind of figure out this streaming thing? Because to me, I was just looking at tennis and I sort of looked at, you know, it seems like what can up the production level is if when the point's on, you're behind the court and you're seeing the point from that way, because that's how you see the whole court and the shots and the movement of it. And then when the point's over, can we cut to sort of a courtside camera view? And we just because we're making content, we had this great sort of more cinematic camera. So we set it up and we did that, and I think that makes a big difference from just a watchability point of view, right? You get to see as soon as the point's over and someone's frustrated, you can cut to them from that side court camera and you can see some of that frustration or that joy or whatever it is. And that already makes something more watchable and more exciting. And you never, that's always the comment is you never really get to see the athleticism from the streaming or from the aerial camera, which still it probably doesn't do it justice, but it's kind of moving that way. Um, and so then we did a couple tournaments the first year, liked it enough, and then we started to just kind of add to our repertoire of equipment. And that's a big thing too. I think, before equipment was so expensive and big and clunky, but every year there's more things that you like. This year, the Jake Kretzky, I don't know if you guys know him, but that's why there's a bunch of courts being able to be streamed from early rounds because he's basically, he's setting up couple cell phones on the top bar, and it's connected to a battery and probably weatherproofed, and it's automatic. Like the match starts, it's connected to the umpire's scoreboard, which has been a huge help that the APTA is doing for that helps across the live streaming. But those courts kind of run, and it's a really good view actually. It shows a lot of space from the baseline. So I think just technology always improves, and that makes it a bunch easier and a bunch cheaper. But I would say the challenges always is obviously one is budget, right? It's a pretty there's a small budget to do all of this because you're not bringing in hundreds of thousands of advertising dollars. It's a small niche market that's kind of supporting and watching. Um, then the elements do make it tough because I would say, oh, the thing that makes it the toughest is the screens for sure. The things that makes it the toughest is the screens because anything else, pickleball, padel, you can go through the glass and it's kind of clean. We tried a couple tournaments where we put the camera actually behind the screen. So you would see the two black poles, but you kind of, on a good day, you see through that screen pretty well, and it's a lower level. It's pretty compelling view. You get to see better movement. But then, that next day was sunny and it just like lit up that screen and it was terrible. So yeah, I would say the screens probably make it the trickiest.
Some of the still photos that you guys are getting are absolutely incredible. I think there was a post, in the last week, where I think Jose had a ball, he had a ball right in front. I mean, it's like, I mean, if you seriously, if you go back to 2017, I was watching a match the other night, and clearly it was a focus issue because it was going through the chicken wire, and you could see the player, closest to you very clearly, but everything was blurred
Mm.
beyond that. And you guys are just capturing the sport so well right now. It's pretty incredible.
And Mark, earlier you had talked about, being on the switchboard for a match. And, one thing I've noticed is like on, some of the show courts, the camera angles are switching and midpoint and, you're getting different views and whatnot. Does it take, for people that are working, behind the scenes, their producers and people working the switchboard, like, do they all need to have a pretty, high level knowledge of paddle to, understand how to kind of show it, how to switch those cameras? Are a lot of the people that, working for you guys, involved in paddle and, and know the sport well?
Um, Yes and no. So say Jake, who's our main guy, he's been around the sport now, so he's got a better idea of the flow. When I actually love being on the switcher because I know like, oh, this is a transition, and I can like, now that we have a corner camera, like then I cut to that. Like I love that, and I know exactly. So the other camera we have is this kind of remote control PTZ camera that we put underneath the umpire chair. And so on the main court, in theory, the cinematic courtside camera would face the serving team, and then like I remote control over the PTZ camera to the other team, and whoever's kind of like made the error or got a big fist pump coming, like I'm ready to like cut to that and see it. So I actually really like being doing that. But say in Aronimink, we had a new guy for the first time because Jake's wife's about to have a baby. And he took like I was there, and the basics instructions were, when the point's on, as the serve goes, then let's click to the aerial camera. And now, because we added this corner camera, you know, if the ball's kind of, we put it on the ad side because that's where most right-handers are going to kind of work that player. If the point's going on a lot there, like then let's cut to that. Don't cut sort of as soon as it goes there, but it's happening, then we can move to that way. And then as soon as the point ends, let's cut to courtside camera. So that's kind of the basic instructions, but it takes a little while for someone to get the flow of it. But it definitely helps having some knowledge of how the sport flows. It's not crucial, and you're probably not going to find many people that know the sport and are going to now have this technical sort of aptitude. But it's something you get the flow as you're doing it more. But yeah, it's like even you guys would be sitting there and be able to switch the cameras. It's kind of fun to like because you know what's coming, and it's exciting.
I was gonna buy. So there's a lot of, and to your point, a lot of the costs of these cameras are coming down, and I know there's AI cameras, and there's several out there now being sold for kids sporting events. You stick it on the sideline, and it can track the ball or players, right? I just don't think that they'll work in paddle inside the cage. I just think it moves too quickly.
They'll work, but I think the main thing to make paddle more exciting to watch, like our next progression where we need to figure out how to do it and do it in budget and all that kind of stuff is I feel like we have a pretty good setup of aerial camera, courtside camera, PTZ under the chair, and corner camera. And now we have to be able to, the next progression would be, can we pull highlights from different cameras in between points? So say, Key runs around and gets this crazy ball on the net. You don't want to see it from the aerial camera. You want to see it from like that court side, super slow-mo cinematic view of him getting there, or someone hits a cutter. You want to see it from that because that's like, if you watch tennis, if you watch any of those racket sports, that's what makes it kind of more like, whoa, it's, points on, the point plays from the aerial camera, nothing really changes. But then as soon as something happens or they're showing a highlight, it's always from one of these other cameras. So that's kind of our next progression to try and up the production values. How can we do that?
Um, are you aware? I know you played with him at least once. Monty has some sort of AI thing going on. Are you aware of this or
Yeah, I chat with Monty quite a lot. Shout out Monty. He's an awesome guy and
two-handed backhand,
great,
vicious?
great two-handed backhand. Yeah, he loves his paddle too. Super smart guy. And from my understanding, it's what he's building is more from the um, stats side and instructional element where
Okay.
he's building something that should be able to tell you, and sorry if I butcher this, Monty, but should be able to tell you, you missed X amount of forehands, and that's sort of your error there, and he- these patterns that you're doing wrong or right. So I believe it's mostly in that world of instruction,
Yeah.
but something I said early on, because I play a lot of padel as well, and something that's huge in South Africa is just this basic it's called Push It, and it's one of those cameras that are behind the court that just sits there. It's filming all the time, and whenever you have, you guys are playing out there in Jersey, and someone hits a sick shot, you just push the button on the gate, and it clips the last 30 seconds. So now you go back to your computer and you see all the shots you've clipped, and then you just sort of download it and send it to your buddies, post it on social media, whatever. I think a lot of people kind of just want even those basic things. And that's yeah, if he can kind of do all of that, I think it's a great asset.
Maybe people will listen to the AI when it tells them, that they've missed 10 forehand drives in a row and stop hitting
Partner,
them.
always the partner's fault.
Yeah. I have actually played though in a padel court that has the push it feature, which is, funny seeing everyone run over to the button after, hitting a good shot or
Amazing.
it's
It's
hilarious.
amazing.
Um, I do have one commentating question because I know you have announced matches. You announced that what has been hyped as the longest paddle point, which has since been absolutely obliterated, I'm sure. But I think it was the two Lofgrens, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you like what? How do you keep the interest of the viewer on such long points?
I don't know the right answer here. I mean, for me, when I'm commentating and the ones I enjoy the most, I feel like I'm trying to watch it because I am watch it like a fan. So I'm watching it in the sense of you're commenting on what just happened. Like, oh my goodness, that was an insane shot. Like, this is a big point. And if you can give a bit of a background thing of why a matchup is exciting, or they used to be partners and so on, like that's great in sort of painting the picture. But I don't know that I would try get too deep in entertaining the viewer because I think most people are watching it. They're somewhat in the background too, and they're seeing the play. And I think or I'll put it this way, most of the negative comments I see pop up in the chat when we are running a stream usually have to do with commentators kind of going off on tangents about something that's not related, and it could be a massive point, like it's 5-4 in the third and someone's talking about
Hot
their
dogs.
dogs.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's I try not to do that stuff, but I don't know. It's the short answer is also it's a pretty thankless job. It's not like any of them are getting big paychecks, and they're doing it for the love And I think that's a big thing for, most of the people I think that make comments online sort of think of it as like the ATP or this professional sort of tennis league where it's moving and it's looking more and more professional, and overall it's good to strive for that, but it's still a very like volunteer kind of thing. So you do have to think of it through that lens to a degree as well, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And we're lucky to have the announcers that we do that, that are willing to travel over and spend the time, and they do a great job. We've had them on the pod before, and they're, characters, and they're funny, but
And they're
again, like
getting
you said,
good.
kudos to them.
And
Yeah.
that's, I think the goal or the role of the commentators used to be to somewhat like coach the people watching, like why something worked or why it didn't. And I think that's changing a little bit where now people are pretty clued up if they're watching. They still want those, like if I'm watching tennis, it's nice to hear Johnny Mack say something interesting, or Chris Eubank says like some from a player's perspective. That's cool. But I think there's some really good commentators at the moment. I think Steve from Baltimore, I'm blanking on his last name, but I think he does a
Sullivan?
yeah, I think he does an awesome job. He knows the game well. I think he does a great job. I'm also blanking on young John Kilmore, I think does an awesome job. Will Colmar, I think does a great job. Guy Moore is fun to me to to listen to. I think he talks nonsense a lot of time, but it's like so fun to hear. Patty's great. And she gives so much. But yeah, I think there's a lot of new commentators as well that are giving a the kind of fun perspective, which is cool.
There's
I think
people.
too with how the streaming has expanded. They don't have to explain the players in the game as much because a lot of the people that are watching have some type of familiarity and background with the pro matches and with the pro players. So it's kind of more about the personalities and the matchups and that kind of stuff, which has made it more like a pro sport, I guess, in that sense.
Who are some of your guys? Who's your player that you love to watch, Luke?
I was a big Durant fan. Always saw him play at Short Hills, which was great. I'd say, I love watching Guillermo play now, just like feel like he's so creative out there. And I've got a lot of respect for Graham as well, but there's not many I don't like to watch. I'll watch any of the streams you guys put up happily and kind of feel like I could learn stuff, and we'll definitely enjoy them. So yeah,
And you,
I'll
Sean?
watch anyone.
Well, when I first started watching paddle, I was drawn to Rams and Tyler Frazier.
Many
Uh,
are drawn to Rams. It's the hair. Don't
yeah,
look at it too closely.
he, he's just. I think we talked. He just glides on the court. He's so
Smooth
smooth
guy.
and effortless. You know, um, and then my boy Lucas Green said, and Ernie Kier said you need to dive into DeRose, and I love Durant. He's the GOAT. Nobody plays a game like DeRose. You just don't know what he's going to do next. He's a magician out there.
Matt Moyer is the new DeRose. We're
He
saying it,
he
yeah.
he is. He's very unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. It's funny. Luke and I saw him. We played team nationals 4 years ago, right? 3 years ago.
No, I think it was in Chicago last year, so 3 years ago, the year before
Three
that.
years ago at Canoe Brook, and we were like, "Who is this kid that's flipping his paddle nonstop?" And when we noticed him then, but I'm like Luke. I love watching all of them. Anna, Floor, Ellie Hallbauer. I mean, I'm just a fanatic, Mark. I love watching everybody, quite honestly. It doesn't really matter who it is.
The women's game has a lot of excitement as well the last couple seasons, especially come semis and finals. There's those some of those matchups are really really exciting, and they're not holding punches. They're kind of going at it back and forth, which is cool.
Yeah, being
I think
Taya.
last year's women's semifinal was that Bay and Page versus Anna and Floor, and that's like one of the best streamed matches I've watched ever. I'd say.
That
Yeah.
that I was courtside for that, and I was absolutely mesmerized by what was happening. Um, that would be one of my top live matches of all time by far.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible match.
Also, got to say Mark Powers, just
Friend of the program.
F around, find out if you're going to go soft to the side wire. He's just going to thump that ball. Um, all right, Mark, we're going to do a rapid fire short lob segment and then we're going to let you go. Luke, you're up.
So you kind of already answered this one, but I would say outside of Lagunitas, favorite hut, favorite court setup that you've played at, or somewhere you just enjoy going that sticks out.
I think Fairmont, New Jersey has a, I haven't, don't have many memories there. I've been there and we filmed there, but I can see that that place can be incredible. Just the doors opening to the courts. I think there's a double l- layer. I could see Fairmont being a really good time, and I remember being there like, wow, this would be fun to have this as my home court.
Luke was there last
I,
week and got into a massive argument with Blake Anderson and Dave Broderick.
So you're not welcome back.
I think I might be welcome. Dave came straight to Fairmount from Newark Airport from a trip to Florida, so I guess that's good ammo for your statement that it's one of the best huts. People are coming straight from the airport to go there for to watch them paddle and have a drink. So,
Correct.
but no, they're two characters and have a lot of funny things to say and a lot of knowledge about the game. Um, then you've kind of already answered this as well, but I'd say again, favorite tournament, one you look forward to, I guess maybe one that you look forward to playing in, and then maybe now one you look forward to going to on, the production side of things.
I would say, and that was never around when I played, but I would say Aronimink seems like it could be a favorite tournament
Yeah.
because JC and the whole team there just does such a good setup. And that time of year, there's a good chance you're going to get good weather. And I think that's pretty huge. Boston and Short Hills are also such good vibes, but you might get smoked with weather. It could be just like bitterly cold. So those are a bit of a gambles. But I would say Aronimink, if I was playing, might be the hot one.
I
Yeah. And
agree. Sorry, I got to enter. I was there and the weather was perfect. The pros were all walking around watching other people play. First class setup. I mean that's a potential national site in my mind.
Yeah, it was awesome.
yeah, I feel like there too, all the clubs that, they use, it's like there's, hosts like major golf championships that are, prestigious, like really famous clubs. So there's no bad place to be sent on like a satellite location there. Um, and then what racket are you currently using or what paddle?
Xenon Vortex Plus, I think it's the red one.
Okay. Love that. And do you use the Xenon shoes as well?
I have, yeah, I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
I think, and this is unpaid solicitation, but I think Xenon and Noah do a phenomenal job. I think he's always trying to make things better, and he doesn't take sort of feedback the wrong way. He's not has no ego with it, and he's just same thing with the shoes. He knows he's not going to get it perfect right away, but he cuts no corners. He does things the right way, and he just like keeps making a better and better product in everything he does. So yeah, I'm a big fan of both of those.
Yeah, I have not heard a bad thing about the shoes yet. And, I go through a bunch of pairs in a season. So I'm looking to get my hands on some of those soon. Next, cutter FYM, cutter roller. What do you prefer to hit?
Um, I have a decent cut. I have a decent cut. I'll probably go there. My role, I never have much confidence on, and I don't hit many nicks, but my cut's decent, so I'll take that one.
Love it. A paddle pet peeve of yours, some answers we've got in the past are people that, are trying to kill you in warmups, don't hit lobs, maybe not saying the score before points, bad line calls, but something that annoys you on the court that people do.
Um, Something that annoys me. The two things that came to mind is the one guy who just never brings a ball. That that pops into my head. And then I wouldn't say it's a pet peeve, but if someone does literally drive everything, it's a good strategy, but it's not that enjoyable to play against because so much of paddle is kind of once the flow of things happens and the lob goes up and you get to kind of practice your patterns and where you're hitting stuff, that's the part I kind of enjoy the most. So when you don't get that, then it's sort of bang bang. It's a good strategy if it's working, but I don't love playing those matches quite as or those players quite as much. But I wouldn't say that's you gotta win however you gotta win.
Yeah. And then here to wrap it up, just a dream pairing question. I'd say, who would you want to play with if you had a big match? You can give a mixed answer and then a men's partner as well.
Let's say for a mixed one, I'm gonna I always need someone who has a big drive. So I'm probably gonna have to go with Liza Lulich because she's rocketing the ball right
Yeah.
now. Team morale, Mason, I would have good team morale, but if we're looking at results, I think I'm gonna have to pick Liza because I need someone who can drive big, and I'm gonna try and blitz because that's kind of the only way I'm finding some offense. And then for a men's partner. I like Steven Mitchell, and it's also just he's such a good guy to be on the court with. I think yeah, and he's just yeah, Johan's a tough one because if it's one of those things where if you win, it's because of him, and if you lose, it's because of you. So there's just no upside to playing there. But I've played a couple of exhibitions with Steve, and always feels good. And he's so good, it's unbelievable.
He's so fast. I mean,
Very fast, very, very
in
fast.
person, and he's longer than you think he is too. Like he's
Yeah, he
incredible.
covers a lot of court moves, like his moving forward from A to B, just that acceleration is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then kind of just piggybacking off that, that's it with the rapid fire segment there. But did you know Steven and Johan, before coming to the States? Did you have an idea who they were? Kind of, you were just introduced to them through platform tennis.
Just through platform, I knew their names from tennis because they were good tennis players in South
Yeah.
Africa, but they're a bit older, so I didn't know them personally. But yeah, we met at paddle camps and kind of rest is history there.
That's awesome. Sean, anything you want to end on here before we let Mark go?
No, Mark, truly appreciate this. This was awesome. You lived the sport, you shaped it, you've watched it change, and I thank you for giving us a window into that world. For anybody listening, go check out My Paddle for great merch, and if you want to get better at the sport we all love.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This was awesome. No, it's cool having you guys do the podcast and talk to players. It's yeah, people like it, so it doesn't always you don't always think people are listening, but they enjoy it and players like it. It's all appreciated. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
We'll see you
I
at the
appreciate
next
you and all this.
tournament.